Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nate Cresto, your host for today and forever, and welcome back to another episode of the Lawyers in the Making podcast, where it is my job to focus on unique journeys to the law and law school of professionals in the legal field and law students. Let's talk about what we're doing today. Today, we have another incredible guest. He's a Southwestern Law School graduate and currently works as an attorney at Gelb Law and as a contributing author at the Daily Journal Corporation. He's held past positions as an associate attorney at Bourdin Semmer and as a post-bar law clerk at Aaron Joyce Law. Excited to have him on the podcast today, Mr. Yisrael Gelb. Welcome to the podcast. How are we doing today?
Before going any further, I'd like to say a quick word about the sponsor of this podcast, Rhetoric. Back in episode 25, I had the privilege of having the CEO, Luke Yingling, on the podcast, and ever since that episode, fell in love with the product. Rhetoric takes user briefs and motions and compares them against the text of opinions written by judges to identify ways to tailor their arguments to better persuade the judges handling their cases. Rhetoric's focus on persuasion and helps users find new ways to improve their odds of success through more persuasive arguments. Know more, win more. I was able to see a demo of the product, and its cutting-edge technology and fascinating features make for a product I am proud to sponsor, and further shows the new digital era the field of law has been entering thus far on my journey doing this podcast. If you decide to book a demo, let them know Nate sent you. Be sure to check them out in the show notes below or at userhetoric.com. One word, userhetoric.com. Now, back to the show.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm happy to have you here as well, Yisrael. And before we get started, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much rattled off my legal background over there. But I originated from Brooklyn, New York. Then moved out to LA, went to law school. I started law school when I was 32 years old. It was kind of like a second career for me. And after graduating, I bounced around with a couple of firms for the first year and a half, and then decided I had enough, decided to open up my own firm and do what I want to do. So right now my business focuses on appellate law, which is the appeals process, as well as business litigation and general civil and civil rights litigation. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So first of all, I'd just like to say, getting into law school at 32 years old is the epitome of what this podcast talks about, that there is no straight path to law school. There is only your unique journey. So can you tell us simply, can you tell us first about your first career path?
Yeah, it's like a Frank Sinatra song.
And then lead us down to why you went to law school in the first place.
Sure. So my first career path started when I went to undergrad in a place called WITS, which is Wisconsin Institute of Torah Studies. So I have Jewish Orthodox practicing, and I went to what's called a yeshiva for the first 4 years of undergrad out in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Got my first degree in Talmudic law, so I already had that kind of law background with me. And then I continued my studies in New York, studying in a place called Rabbinical Seminary of America, where I was for about 9 years of this. I did a couple degrees, plus I ended up getting my rabbinic ordination. So I'm actually an ordained rabbi to the highest levels possible. So which means that I can pretty much be a judge on any court of Jewish law. That's my qualification there. After I finished over there, I was already about 30 years old at that point. So I decided to get into not pulpit rabbis or pulpit rabbinics, but I got into fundraising. That was kind of my thing at that point. So I started working for a couple of organizations in fundraising, did that for 2 years, and then transferred from there over to an organization that dealt with lobbying and politics. So I was doing that for a little bit. And it was at that point that I decided that I really wanted to pursue what was really a lifelong dream since I was a kid, to become a lawyer. I was like, okay, I'm 32 now. If I don't do this now, when is it going to actually end up happening? So took the LSAT. I think I signed up literally um, right by the deadline. I took the July LSAT. It was actually a Monday. Usually LSATs are given on Saturdays, but because I'm a Sabbath observer, so I got um, the accommodation to take the Monday one, which in California they only give once or twice a year. So I had to actually go out all the way, um, exactly where it was, somewhere near Ontario, in like one of the colleges over there. I think there was like a Christian college or something. So I was there. I took the LSAT. I know we spoke offline about what you scored. I didn't score too much higher. I got a 157. And I was like, okay, I didn't really study for the LSAT. I didn't really know what to expect going into the LSAT. I was just like, okay, this is something I have to do. So I'll just walk in and kind of, give it my best shot without really studying. So then I was like, okay, if I could get a 157 without studying, what can I get with studying? So I decided to take it again. Um, but I ended up coming literally 2 minutes late to the second LSAT, and they wouldn't sit me. They wouldn't let me take it. So I was stuck with my 157. Um, I was looking for a law school that would allow me to um, go to school at nighttime and kind of be able to work and support my family. At that point, I already had 3 kids. So there were in LA. There were only 2 programs like that. It was Southwestern and Loyola. So I went first to visit the Loyola campus. I didn't really like it. I went into one of the classrooms. It just something about it was just like very claustrophobic and disrespect. And I was like, I can't be here. Then I went to visit the Southwestern campus, and the first thing they bring you into is like this big, massive auditorium, library. It's like, and I was like, I feel at home here. So I ended up signing up for Southwestern, um, and then um, because I have my GPA and even a 157 LSAT score, together with I had a 4.0 GPA from undergrad. So that combination got me a scholarship for the first year. And then I just decided I started going to night classes the following year. So I started August 2018, going to school while working full time. And at that time, my job, I was still lobbying. So I was flying, like some days were like pretty crazy. I was flying 7 o'clock in the morning up to Sacramento, meeting with people in the capital, flying back at 2 o'clock, getting into Burbank like at 4 o'clock, running off the class at 6, and then home by 9:30. It was pretty crazy. But I stuck through it. It took me about 3.5 years. I ended up powering through summers. The last semester I went full time. Studied for the bar. Took the February 22 bar. Graduated in December 21. Technically, took the February 22 bar. I passed on the first time. And then what I forgot to do during law school, and I've always kind of been like my own person, so I never really asked anybody. But I forgot to take the MPRE. So I passed on the first time with the bar, but I didn't have an MPRE to take the score. So I still had to take that, and then that took me a couple times to pass. So no one told me that it's the second most ethical answer that's the right one, not the most ethical answer. So I had to figure that. It took me a couple times to figure that part out. So finally, eventually, I got barred in September of 22, and a recruiter reached out to me. I started working like board in summer. So during that period of time, while I was still taking the MPRE, I was working for an ethics firm, Aaron Joyce Law, as their post-bar clerk. I had previous experience with working for the California State Bar when I was in law school, so that was like a good transition. And then a recruiter reached out to me and hired me to work defense litigation, where I ended up for about 5 months. It was a good firm. Just I didn't want to spend my day putting in 10, 12 hours a day writing reports for insurance companies. I don't know if you know much about, probably by now you probably know more, but defense litigation, because you're being hired by the insurance company to defend, whether it's a corporation, a business, individuals, whatever it is, you're constantly writing these progress reports to the insurance companies, and they are mindless. And frankly, from my point of view, a big waste of my time. So, I was in the office at 8 o'clock every morning. I wasn't leaving until 7, 8 o'clock at night. And, I was spending a lot of time just writing these dumb reports. So I was like, I can't do this. So I always wanted to do appeals. That was kind of my thing, researching, writing. So I was like, okay, I'm opening up my own firm. I'm going to go on my own. And that's what happened. So here we are a year and 2 months later. And thank God it's been an amazing ride so far.
Well, first, I have to say congratulations on all the kids that you have. I know I'm late. I know I'm late to the party, but I always like to give those congratulations. I want a family one day myself, so I aspire to be just like you, Israel. Now, I want to go back, all the way back to the first year of law school. And obviously, you're coming from such a unique perspective here because not only did you have years going through school becoming a rabbi, but you're also going to night school, which is completely different from what most people normally go through. But there still are those people out there who got to go to night school. It's just the circumstances. It's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, can you talk about that first year? Because some people love it, some people hate it. How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty good. I mean, most of my class was actually, around my age. We actually had the first year, we had a woman who was 55 and going back to school. I don't know what happened to her after the first year, but I think it was good to have people in my cohort in my class that were experienced. They weren't 22, 23 years old, just fresh out of undergrad. They had real life experience. A lot of them had families. A bunch were married with kids. Even that, I mean, there were people who were working already for 10, 15 years in the field, and they had serious life experience. So it gave them a much more serious vibe to the entire law school experience.
Yeah, so going forward, because I have to ask, since your perspective is coming from a very unique place, how did sort of going through becoming a rabbi influence your perspective when you're going throughout law school, and did it help you in any way?
Yeah, it did. So, you know, becoming a rabbi, involves a lot of in-depth learning and analytics. Um, it also requires you to be very sympathetic and empathetic to people. So, all that together just makes for a good lawyer. That's really what lawyering is all about. It's having a client, showing empathy, or having empathy, showing sympathy, um, for their whatever their situation is, and having that drive you, plus being able to analyze and to view different perspectives, um, and to see things from all sides. That those are all useful tools.
So with that, I come to something, a concept that I constantly talk about on this podcast, the human aspect of the law. As you go through law school, and I've never been there, but I've talked to some people about it, and they have told me that a lot of the times it's just taking plain text, applying to the rules of law, just back and forth, a lot of reading, a lot of cases, but no practical knowledge on dealing with humans. And that human aspect kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. Can you talk a little bit more about that empathy, how important it is when you're talking to clients to make sure that they feel like they're being listened to, they feel like they're being respected, their time is being respected, everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the former Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer was like, the epitome of, you know, the pragmatic human aspect, where everything had to be viewed through the lens of how's this going to affect real life people. And I think I learned a lot from listening to him and different lectures and oral arguments in the Supreme Court. But there's actually a balance. I mean, you can't get too emotionally involved, because then that skewers your perspective into a way where you'll actually end up missing different things and different ideas and different perspectives. So you can't allow yourself to become too emotionally attached, but at the same time, having empathy and understanding that people are going through, especially if you're working on the plaintiff's part, having that empathy that people are going through tough times, and this might be the toughest time that they're going through in their lives. it's a really important part. And it's not just, this is what a Supreme Court decision said in 1873 or, 2012, or this is the latest, update from the Court of Appeals. But there is a very real and valid human aspect that people are facing.
So you say you do appellate litigation. It's your main thing now. How did you sort of come to the conclusion that this is what I want to do? This is the path for me?
Well, it's very much, it involves a lot of analyzing. It's something that is kind of get into the nitty gritties of the law. I mean, I always compare it to the neurosurgery of the law, where it gets, it's super weedy and detailed and technical, and just if you're, that's if you're a nerd, then that's the type of law that that you end up kind of gravitating towards. You also, it's the part of the law where you potentially have the most ability to affect future cases, right? Because just the idea of stare decisis and how Court of Appeals decisions work, if at least in California, decisions that are published by the Court of Appeals become binding precedent, at least for that district. And, if it's persuasive for other districts, and then if you get a Supreme Court decision, that's binding on the entire state. So you have a very real opportunity to affect change in a very positive way, not just for your clients, but for future litigants as well.
So can you talk about, because something I like to highlight on this podcast, sort of the positive and negative experiences that people have throughout their career. And in terms of positive and negative, all I mean is finding out what you want to do and finding out what you don't want to do. So can you talk about a couple instances of maybe a negative experience you had where you found out, okay, this isn't for me, and maybe a positive experience of, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I already spoke about my negative incidents, right? Writing mindless insurance reports was just not for me. But look, I mean, in law school, I competed in moot court, and that was just such a great positive experience, and something that kind of mimics what appellate law is all about. So, I already had background in writing, I already had background in research, which is 95% of appellate law. Then having the moot court experience and having editing experience, that just kind of solidified in my mind that's where I wanted to go. So it was just a matter for me. It was just a matter of breaking in, and we talk about different paths, or Frank Sinatra famously said, "I did it my way." Um, when it comes to appellate law, it's a very hard field. It's a very niche field, and it's a very hard field to break into. The typical path involves clerking for a justice, having extensive clerking experience. There are certain, firms in California, which will remain nameless right now, that they will only hire young associates if you have significant clerking experience. They won't hire you if you don't have any experience clerking for a judge. But as I said, like, I was working full time, I didn't have that opportunity to go ahead and to get all that clerking experience. So, and I wasn't top in my class. I didn't have much time for studying, and I got by and through law school. A combination of not really caring what my scores were, and just using my own God-given intelligence and wits to get through. So I wasn't being hired by a big law firm, and I didn't have the clerking experience. So the only way for me to really break through into the appellate field would be to just hang up my shingle and announce to the world I'm an appellate lawyer, and that's exactly what I did.
So I want to talk about what you do now, Gelb Law. It's your own law firm. And usually when I ask people questions about opening their law firm, there's some struggles that come along with it. It's a tough process. So can you talk about some struggles that you may have faced when you started your solo practice? And what advice would you have for people if you would ever do it differently in any way?
That's a good question. Um, where do I start? Would I do it differently in any way? I don't know if I would do it differently in any way because, you know, every person, once you come to the realization that you have to work for yourself, you just go for it. And part of the learning experience is making the mistakes and going through the process. But just to highlight some of the processes is, I mean, the first one, it's that you don't have a steady paycheck, right? And that's the most obvious one, right? You're only going to eat what you kill. So if you're not killing, right? If you're not hunting down food, you're not feeding. So that became that's a big part of it, not having a steady paycheck. I wrote an article about it about a year ago for the Daily Journal. You know, I walked away from a six-figure paycheck because I just wasn't happy with the work that I was doing. So do my own thing. That's a significant move. So some people, if you feel comfortable doing it without a parachute, that's great. If you're the type of person who doesn't feel comfortable doing it without a parachute, you're just simply not going to open up your own firm until you have the money that you feel that you need to survive at whatever style of life that you have, um, and being able to fund an office to the way you want. So it really, that's kind of a personal decision. Every person has to figure out for themselves what they're comfortable with. Some people are spend their entire lives in corporate law, or I don't mean necessarily like doing corporate law. I mean like doing big law or working for other firms. And if that's what suits them, that's fine. That's what they're happy doing. That that's great. Some people have the itch and the bug, and they want to go out and do their own thing, and that's fine too. Some people work only for government. Like everyone's got to figure out for themselves, like where they stand in life, and usually, within the first couple of years of practicing, you kind of will figure out, where it is that you want to go, and even if you're not there now, you'll get there eventually.
How did you sort of figure out where you got that when you figured out that you had that itch that you wanted to go out on your own?
The itch was always there. It was just, the first. I wasn't ready to do it originally, only because I wanted to have someone pay me first to get some experience. But the itch was always there. And then finally, when I saw, you know, the mindless work that I was doing, I decided to drop it and just go out and do my own thing.
So you also are contributing author at Daily Journal Corporation. Now, can you talk about what you do there, what you write about there?
Yeah. So I'm not actually hired by the Daily Journal, just as I write articles and they're kind enough to print them. Um, so I have a bunch of articles um, on mental health, and I have a bunch of articles that go through different areas of the law that I've been practicing in. So a lot of tort liability, premise liability, affirmative action, and now I have a couple more down the pipeline. Hopefully, will be published soon.
So let's take a little bit deeper dive into some mental health stuff. It's very important.
Sure.
It's so important. Your mind, body, spirit. It's integral to your being. It makes you feel happy. Make sure you're in the right mindset. Can you talk about some mental health tips you have for people out there, law students, litigators, pretty much anyone?
Yeah. I mean, I can only tell you what works for me. Obviously, exercising and trying to be healthy and right is definitely crucial. But it's also just a realization that as much as we think that we control everything, we don't control everything. There's always a bigger picture. Whether you believe in God or not, doesn't really matter. There's always a bigger fish. There's always something that will control, um, you know, the world in the way of events. So it's really just a matter of being able to accept that I have limited capabilities and I can do what I can do and I can't do what I can't do. And at the end of the day, I'm going to put in my full effort and my full, it, I'm going to give it my best, but you can't control what you can't control. So, and just coming to terms with that and accepting that, I think that that's a major step.
Yeah, I'd have to agree very much with that. I think I have a lot of post-it notes on my all over my room. I'm a big post-it note guy. I don't know. I should just get like a notes app or something. But one of the top one, the one all the way at the top, all the
Maybe
way.
you should get them to sponsor you too.
Maybe, I honestly, with the amount of post-it notes, like I'm trying to solve a murder mystery up here. But the top post-it note says "The universe is on our side." I think it's very important to put those things out there because, like you said, there are things that we can't really control. But when we usually do good things, when we do good things to people, we get it back in return some way. And I know you can relate to that very much because you do have the religious background. And it's a very it's somewhat, and like you said, if you believe in God or not, it doesn't really matter. But can you give us a little more from that perspective, sort of the way you keep your spirits high?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, like keeping like I said, I'm Orthodox Jew. I keep Shabbat. For me, shutting off for the 24 hours and fully keeping to Shabbat is like the most ultimate thing I can possibly do to keep my spirit. It's a total disconnect from the world. It's a disconnect from business. It's a realization that God's in control and that we're just submitting to His will. And it's not just talking about it; it's actually doing it. It's a life that you're living that actually helps you come and imbibe that realization. So just being able to disconnect for those 25 hours and to just turn off your business mind and say, hey, this is all spiritual time or it's family time, it's me time, that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's super important. One of my favorite quotes ever from Aristotle. He says, "Action without knowledge, or knowledge without action, is not knowledge at all." Totally butchered the quote there, but it still stands that it's so important that you're acting on these things and you're acting in a type of way that your spirit can follow you, your spirit can be raised by that. Because like you said, you could talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? Like Ric Flair says, one of my favorite wrestlers ever.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
Oh yes, it was. I love that quote so much. I really do, and I love Ric Flair. I just watch clips of him all day long. I think he's
Yeah.
fascinating. He just once he gets it going. Oh, I love the energy as well. He brings a great energy. I have to ask. I want to ask about energy. What sorts of ways do you improve your energy, making sure that your energy is right?
Um, but like I said, I exercise pretty much every day, work out pretty much every day so that, if the days that I miss going to the gym or working out, you can just tell that your energy is going to be off. And, sometimes we're just sluggish and we just have to get, our bodies moving and really just forcing yourself to start working out and start moving your body will, do wonders for your mind as well. Um, then there's a lot of just spiritual stuff that I do. Um, whether it's praying every day or studying religious texts, which helps also again with my mind, emotional state. So these are just some of the things, and then just trying to be a good person, trying to help people understand that it's not just about the law, but the law in of itself is a religious experience because it helps keep order in the world and keeps things in sync and how they're supposed to be doing. And when you're helping individual people, those individual people need help, and you're the one promoting the help. That itself is a religious experience for me. So I view my entire mission through this religious prism and lens, and I think that itself helps me, stay sane and stay motivated, and just keeps my energy up. Like it's not like you don't have to be out on a mission, so to speak, to do God's work, right? You can be doing God's work, in the mundane as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating framework that you have, and one that everyone can learn of, including myself, as I go on in this world and I try to find those frameworks that keep me sane, that keep me going, keep me energized, get me up in the morning, get me out of bed. But we're down to our final five questions. The first of the questions is that throughout this journey doing this podcast, and this has become a new question, but I felt that the legal industry as a whole is on the precipice of this new era. A lot more people are becoming more adjacent with technology, either that be AI, software products, all that kind of stuff. And that the tradition is sort of moving away as people are moving more towards the digital age that's going on. So my question would be, what sorts of products or software recommendations do you have for people? Sort of the tech stack question per se.
Oh, rhetoric, obviously. James, brother, if you listen to this, I love you. Everyone should buy rhetoric. But no, in all honesty, I do believe rhetoric is a great product. I know it's helped me, and James and I have spoken about it. And I think he has some clips and posts about our conversations. Other products, I use ClearBrief. I use oh gosh, um, Ross Guberman's product is slipping my mind right now. I'm having a senior moment.
Brief catch?
I'll come to Brief Catch. Thank you. Yeah, those are two major ones that I use. And then I just have my legal, my case management software. Right now, I'm using Practice Panther. It's a pretty good software for solo firms. And then, just your regular QuickBooks and for invoicing and, to make sure the money stays flowed. But in terms of AI legal tech software, so it's Lexis AI, ClearBrief, BriefCatch, Rhetoric. Yeah, that's pretty much it right now.
So, fourth to last question here. Live, official, on the Lawyers in the Making podcast. Yisrael, what are your book recommendations for people out there? Doesn't have to be about the law.
Oh my
Favorite
gosh,
book.
Okay, I'm in the middle of reading this book by biography of Bill Marriott, the founder of the Marriott hotel chain. It is a must read. Oh my gosh, what that man has not accomplished in his time on this world, and I don't want to give it away too much. Just read it. I cannot recommend it enough. It is so inspiring.
Do you have any other ones?
I think the official title is called "Success is Never Final," which should tell you a lot about the book.
Success is never final. Writing it down. I have to write it down so I can buy it later.
Just type in Bill Marriott and it'll come up. It's a red cover.
So, third to last question here. What are the types of things you consume, not food, consume on a daily basis, either that be through social media, so Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Substack, Reddit, any podcast you like listening to? What is crossing the transom of Yisrael's mind on a daily basis?
On a daily basis. Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn every day, both posting and commenting on everyone in my appellate LinkedIn world. And shout out to all my friends over there. I know you had Ryan on a little bit.
I did,
back.
Ryan McCall. What?
Yeah, you have Elegant.
I got the book right here.
It is
Elegant
Legal Writing right there. Yeah, it's a great book. I'm on LinkedIn every day, posting, commenting, interacting with colleagues. I have a on and off relationship with Instagram. So I maintain an Instagram page for my business. I've gotten rid of my personal one. I mean, it's still out there. I just unfollowed everybody, and I found that my mental health has gone up exponentially since I've done that. And then I kind of just on and off download and delete Instagram from my business page as necessary. But I wouldn't say that's a daily thing. Pretty much just LinkedIn in terms of social media.
Yeah, I am actually the same exact way. I will delete apps. Like if I feel like I'm on there for like just a minute too long, I'm like, nope, deleted. Nope, I'm not. Don't even think about it nowadays. It's just like, goodbye, and then
just get rid of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but LinkedIn has been a great place for me. And you talk about finding your own path. So like part of my plan and my strategy was to basically have my own voice on both my LinkedIn and through my writing for the Daily Journal. And those have really been two great mediums for me to be able to amplify my voice, even without all of my background, right? Even without having a big law background, without having a political background, I've just been able to amplify my voice through those two mediums. By just, here's my content, just posting daily, interacting with other people, and just being able to, build myself up that way.
Yeah, I could not. Obviously, I gotta agree with that because that's what I do nowadays with LinkedIn and the way that I utilize it. But it just goes to that further broader point of how wonderful the internet is and how wonderful the flow of information is nowadays. Not ever in the history of the world have you ever had this much information available for people to consume and for people to read about and to learn things and to build skills and to get your name out there and put your name out there. I've done it myself. You've done it yourself. So it's a real possibility. It's a real thing. You just got to do it. But second to last question here. You're working, you got your own firm, but what is an ideal Friday or Sunday morning look for Yisrael?
Oh, so let's put Sunday morning out because I kind of follow the Israeli path where Sunday is a full work day. Sometimes my kids are in school for most of the day, anyways. They go to private Jewish school, and their school runs on Sunday. So, like for me, Sunday is like a regular day. You go to Israel, Yom Rishon. The first day, it's like a Monday. Sundays are Mondays there. Their 2-day weekend is Friday and Saturday. So that's kind of the path that I take. But Friday, perfect day is so I shut off usually around. I try to shut off around 2 o'clock in the afternoon in order to start preparing for Shabbat. And once I'm working till like hardcore until 2 o'clock. As 2 o'clock comes up, unless I'm in court or for some other thing that I can't push off. Um, and then from 2 on until sundown, I'm preparing for Shabbat, getting ready, food, the house, whatever is necessary. And then go off to synagogue by sundown, prayers, Shabbat meal with the family, and then my 25 hours of peace and rest.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds like the ideal Friday night, I have to say. You've got one of the most ideal ever.
Yeah, I don't feel any jealousy for people not being able to go out Friday night. I know it's a big scene Friday night. People going out this that, but just being home with the family and being able to sit and relax and sit around the table and enjoy hear about everyone's week and everyone's steak and talking. That is ideal.
Absolutely. Well, Yisrael, last question here. I do this at the end of every episode. What are your words of wisdom for the aspiring law students, the current law students, and the legal professionals out there in the world?
Just go for it. Just do it. Don't keep your head down. Don't listen to what anyone else is saying. If this is what you want to do, just do it and you'll find a way.
Block out that noise and find that unique journey because there's no straight path to law school. There's no straight path to law.
That's right.
There's only your unique
it's
journey.
not straight path to life. Everyone's different. Everyone looks differently. Everyone thinks differently. Everyone is different, and you'll just find your own path eventually.
Exactly. But Yisrael, that's the podcast. So thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your wisdom, sharing your experiences. And for everyone out there listening, thank you for tuning in. Check us out, lawyersofthemaking.substack.com. Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for coming on here as well. But check us out, lawyersofthemaking.substack.com. Lawyers in the Making, one word, substack.com. And I will see you in the next one.